Welcome back to my channel IMDb 8 Recap. Today I'm going to explain the thriller and adventure movie Posidon, released in the year 2006. The movie is about a large, magnificent ship that was overturned by a lethal wave much like Titanic and the tragedy that unfolds after that. But before we begin to tell you the story, please subscribe to our channel, as we really need your support to grow and keep making these amazing recaps. Thanks, from the team of IMDb 8 Recap, if you have subscribed, and beware of the spoilers. The movie opens in the North Atlantic Ocean, through where a cruise liner is sailing. Its name is Posidon, and it's named after the Greek god of water. A guy with the name Dylan Jones runs for his evening workout and stops to watch the last sunset of 2005, as it is December 31st. Meanwhile, we see a girl Jennifer Ramsey is in a large suite with her boyfriend, Christian, when Jennifer's father, former firefighter and New York Mayor Robert Ramsey, arrives. When Christian calls him sir, he tells him to stop calling him that because the word makes him feel old. He thinks that the two children were having sex and mentions it to them, which angers Jennifer, and she tells her father that there is no such thing between them and walks away. Elena, a Spanish girl, is looking for a way into the kitchen, and Dylan guides her. She is looking for Marco Valentine, her friend. She meets Marco, who happens to be a waiter on the ship, and he is horrified to see her in the kitchen as she is traveling illegally. In New York, Elena's brother is sick, she has no money, so Marco is helping her out. But if anyone finds out, Marco will lose his job. So, he sends her back and advises her to stay in the cabin. Meanwhile, Richard Nelson calls his boyfriend but only gets an answering machine, and he begs him to call him later that night. He looks very worried. Captain Michael Bradford greets all passengers aboard his ship that night, and after that, Gloria, a hired professional, sings her song. Everyone looks elated with the performance and happy with their lives, and with the same happiness, they want to welcome the new year enthusiastically. Dylan and Ramsey are seen playing Texas Hold'em with two other men. Just then, Jennifer and Christian arrive and tell Ramsey that they are going to a nightclub. Ramsey tells Jennifer to tuck her dress up to cover her fronts, which she does somewhat embarrassedly. But not liking her father's advice, she shouts loudly, "A set of 5. Ramsey had reached the $50,000 betting limit with Dylan but lost because of Jennifer. Dylan is overjoyed at his eventual victory. At another table, Nelson is sitting with some of his friends, telling them about his split with his partner. Nelson orders a bottle of wine for everyone at the table and goes out to get some fresh air. Meanwhile, Dylan bumps into a kid named Connor James, who is playing with his PSP. Just then, his mother Maggie comes and apologizes to Dylan on Connor's behalf. While walking together for some distance, they both try to learn about each other. Suddenly, the officer hears a noise in the control room, and the sensors also indicate a 150-foot wave approaching the ship. Seeing the wave that is touching the sky, the officer orders the ship to turn. On the deck, Nelson is about to jump off with the intention of committing suicide, but when he sees death in front of him, he steps back to save his life. The ship does not have time to turn around and escape from the wave. The wave hits the ship and overturns it, i.e., the roof now becomes the floor. During this upending, apocalyptic destruction occurs within the ship. Some people get burned by fire, and some get electrocuted. When the ship is completely overturned, everyone starts searching for their lost loved ones. Many have already died. Captain Bradford tells everyone that a rogue wave has hit the ship. This wave is unpredictable and lethal. But the good thing is that they have sent a signal, and rescue personnel will come to their aid in a few hours. Maggie is looking for Connor when she finds him stuck on the piano on the ceiling, which is actually the floor. Ramsey arrives and, with the help of a few others, creates a slide through the curtain for Connor to fall, which Connor jumps onto to land safely. At the nightclub, Jennifer is fine, but one of the lighting girders falls on Christian, impaling his leg. Jennifer tries, but fails to remove it. She sees Elena while looking around and asks her for help. They try, but it's not enough. Ramsey pleads with the captain to let him go to find his daughter. However, the captain says that no one is allowed out due to security measures. Connor sees Dylan stealing something from a corpse, and he asks him what he's doing. So, he replies without giving the correct reason. Maggie tells Dylan not to give false comfort to her son, to which Dylan says he can really get out of here, and Ramsey pleads with him to get him out and help him find his daughter. Nelson, Ramsey, Maggie, and Connor are then recruited by Dylan into his team, and since Marco knows the ship, he is asked to join them as well. Their plane is out of the propeller area because the vast ocean outside is safer than the ship. After they leave, the doors are locked, and the captain prays to God to protect them. They walk down an alley in the opposite direction to a service elevator. They use a flimsy metal bench as a bridge to cross the shaft to get to the upper floor. Dylan climbs onto Nelson's shoulder and opens the upper door. Meanwhile, they discover that an elevator cab above them starts sliding downward, and now these people want to get out as soon as possible. Nelson and Marco are left, and when the bench falls, Marco grabs Nelson's leg. They don't have much time because they can't be saved together, so Dylan instructs Nelson to kick Marco, but Nelson hesitates. Reluctantly, Nelson kicks Marco off, causing him to fall down, and Dylan pulls Nelson away before a cab comes from above to crush him. A huge explosion occurs after the cab crashes, and before they burn to death, Dylan and Ramsey close the door. All of them are very sad about Marco's death, but they cannot stop, so they continue heading towards the engine room. While Elena and Jennifer are still trying to free Kristen, Lucky Larry, who has been playing cards with Ramsey, comes to help them. He repositions the leveraged rod, and Dylan's team arrives before Larry can remove the girder. Ramsey and Jennifer are relieved to see each other alive and hug. Together they remove the girder over Kristen, and Maggie cleans his wound and puts a bandage. They then open a hot door since they have no other option to escape the area. From here, they reach the main lobby of the ship. To go in the opposite direction, they use the fallen escalator as a bridge to reach the other side. One by one, the five make it safely across, but when it's Jennifer's turn, Larry wants to go first, but Dylan and Ramsey forbid him from going alone because he is drunk, and without grasping the situation, he disrespects them. As he reaches the center, a supplementary diesel unit falls from above and hits the escalator, killing Larry and collapsing the bridge. A fire breaks out in the water as a result of the diesel spill. In the next scene, Jennifer wants to go to Kristen anyway. She tells her father that Kristen proposed to her. Ramsey is surprised to hear this. He tells Dylan to find another way, but Dylan grabs a nearby fire hose and jumps into the water. He swims to the other side and climbs up. Everyone else is on the top floor, and he makes a sort of bungee bridge. Ramsey brings a curving metal pipe and tells Jennifer to hold his back tightly. They both slide down the pipe, and again, they all come together. Back in the music hall, people are restlessly pacing here and there, waiting for help, when suddenly the water pressure increases, the glasses start breaking, and everyone screams at the sight of their deaths. Suddenly, the hall starts to fill with water. Dylan and his companions are horrified to hear the screams. Despite the danger, they decide to go further, and soon they find a duct, which they believe will lead to the bottom. Ramsey examines the duct and tells them it's fine and they can go in. Elena is claustrophobic, but ignoring her cries, Dylan forces her into the duct. Nelson is constantly comforting Elena as she climbs into the duct. Ramsey congratulates Christian as they climb into the duct, telling him that, in principle, Christian should have asked his permission first, which he tells him was denied by Jennifer. They reach the sealed exit of the duct. Ramsey tries unsuccessfully to pry it open with his fingers and then he calls Connor for help. Nelson has tripped over a section of the duct. Elena's fear is not abating, especially as she watches the water rise, but Dylan convinces her to push Nelson out as he almost drowns himself. At Dylan's persuasion, she pushed Nelson, and he breaks free, while Connor manages to open the screws of the sealed duct. They barely make it out of the duct. They find themselves now trapped in the ship's ballast chamber with no way forward. After some thought, Dylan comes up with an idea. He says the only way out is to flood the chamber, which will open a vent on one side of the tank. But Maggie and Elena are very nervous. Dylan opens the water channel, and after a while, the vent opens, sending them to the other side with the flow. But they still have to swim down the stairs to the other side. On her way to the other side, Elena gets stuck and gets badly hurt. Nelson pulls her out of the water, and Ramsey gives her CPR, but she passes away. They have to move on, leaving Elena's body behind. The ship is slowly sinking, and the water level is rising. When they go to their respective part, they are very disappointed to see it because it is now underwater, in which they cannot swim. Desperately, they reunite and try to think of another way out. Ramsey comes to Dylan and tells him that he gave everyone a chance, but it's not his responsibility to save everyone, so he shouldn't be disappointed. He's done a great job. Suddenly there is another explosion in the ship's engine. They drown in the water, and when Maggie calls out to Connor, he's not there, everyone else has gone to the other side. Dylan and Maggie find Connor, who has somehow drifted to the other side of the room. Connor is so scared, Dylan somehow finds his way to the other side. Just as Maggie thinks she's lost her baby, Dylan arrives with Connor. All three of them leave the spot and go to the engine room. Luckily, The engine room is clear of water. When Nelson opens the doors to the thrusters, he is pushed back by the hurricane force winds generated by the moving propellers. Seeing this, Christian suggests they should throw something at the propellers to stop them, but Ramsey explains that they have to either stop them manually or turn them the other way. Ramsey wants to go into the control room to do this, but Christian says he can do it better because his lungs are better than Ramey's. Jennifer doesn't want to let him go. While they are talking, Ramsey goes to the control room because he can't see his daughter crying like this. As Ramsey enters the control room, he finds the engine stop button broken. On the other hand, when Dylan arrives, Christian tells him that Ramsey has gone to turn off the propeller. Ramsey is trying to somehow stop the propeller, but he is unable to hold his breath any longer. As Ramsey is drowning, he finds a button that causes the propellers to spin in the opposite direction, which he presses as he takes his last breath. In the engine room, the propellers suddenly stop running, making everyone happy, but then the propellers start spinning in the opposite direction, pulling everyone towards it. Dylan tries to stop the blades by throwing a large gas tank at them, but the tank gets stuck in the small door frame. He soon manages to get the tank into the thruster shaft, as the water is now rushing into that section. As the tank hits the propeller, it explodes and destroys it. Everyone now rushes out and jumps into the sea. There is a life raft nearby, and they all swim towards it. They sit in it, and just then the Poseidon straightens up, creating huge waves. They scurry to get away from it as quickly as possible. They see this magnificent ship Poseidon sinking into the depths of the sea. Jennifer is deeply saddened by the loss of her father, who sacrifices his life to keep her alive. Dylan fires a fire gun so the rescue team can come to their aid, and fortunately, 2 helicopters arrive and hover over the raft, and here this movie ends. Overall, Poseidon is a great movie to watch with an amazing storyline, so make sure to check it out. To watch many more exciting recaps like this, don't forget to subscribe, as that's the only way we can keep making these fantastic recaps, and like this video. Let us know in the comments section about your next favorite movie that you would like us to recap. Thanks again for watching, and stay safe and healthy.